Okay, so welcome everybody. So today is the first lecture of this class about combinatorial theory of orthogonal polynomial and continued fraction. Where is my mouse? So you see chapter 0. It's a survey of the whole class. So maybe if it goes too fast, don't worry, because we'll start next week chapter 1 and a slow piece. But now I will just to give an idea of what is going to be in this class. So in fact, this course is the part 4 of a series of lectures about bijective combinatorics. So this is part 4, and part 1, 2, 3. The first part was introduction to enumerative, algebraic, and bijective combinatorics. And you know, bijective combinatorics, there is many bijections, many formula. It's a jungle of bijections. So I try to put some order in all this zoo of garden of combinatorial objects, and I try to put bijection under the same roof. So part 2 was about heaps of pieces putting under the same roof many, many things. Part 3 was about the relationship between quadratic algebra and combinatorics, and there was many, many things like Robinson-Schoenstatt, correspondence, etc., percept, tiling, physics, Alexandre matrices. So do not worry, because this class does not suppose that you have followed already class part 1, 2, 3. It's independent. Each class is independent each other. Of course, there is many overlap. And in this course, I will need some elementary fact from the part 1 about ordinary generating function, exponential generating function. So I will recall what is in part 1. I will need some elementary fact. Also, I will need things like binary tree, Dick path, Motzkin path. So I will remind you. I will start this as if nobody has followed the class before. So I call this series of lectures the heart of bijective combinatorics. And this is a video book. Video book means it's not an e-book. Video book, there is a series of video. All these classes are recorded and available on YouTube or from my website. So all the slides also are on internet. So there is 2 websites. So this website, which is in Montreal, in fact, the server, and mirror image in India. So it's better to connect to the website here because it will be up to date for each courses. Maybe this one will be not up to date. And so usually in the first lecture, it was the class was at 2 levels. Level for good undergraduate student and graduate and postdoc, and maybe sometime for a researcher, professor, or a more advanced student. And in that case, I call this complement. Complement means maybe it goes faster, there is no proof, but just to open some windows on today's research. So we start chapter 0, overview of the course. So orthogonal polynomial. Usually it's a part of very classical analysis. It's a very classical topics, very classical subject. And in this subject, it's especially for physicists, special function. It starts with trigonometric function, hypergeometric function, Bessel elliptic function. All this is related to orthogonal polynomial. Also, there is important application in numerical analysis and apply analysis like interpolation, mechanical quadrature, differential and integral equations. So many, many times in classical analysis, orthogonal polynomial appears. There is also many application connection with probability theory, many connection with quantum and statistical mechanics. In physics, they appear many, many times. And maybe the first time they appear really, the first today was go back to Chebyshev in the 1850s, something like this, with the famous Chebyshev polynomial, which are trigonometric function when you express sinus of n plus 1 theta in function of sinus theta and a polynomial in cosinus theta. UN is a Chebyshev polynomial second kind. And this Chebyshev polynomial are orthogonal for us under, you see, this is the integral over a certain measure. The product, this is a scalar product of 2 polynomials. You have an integral, and this is a Kronecker symbol. So this is 0 if m is different of n, and this is non-zero if m equal n. And each Chebyshev polynomial un is of degree n. And in fact, you know, there is two kinds of Chebyshev. First kind, second kind. This is when you take cosine n theta in function of a cosine theta. So usually in analysis, orthogonal polynomial, they are defined as a sequence of polynomial, each in one variable. Each polynomial, in fact, has coefficient in real number. After it will extended to complex number. And usually it's real number. So each polynomial is the degree. This means the degree of the polynomial is n. And they are orthogonal for a certain scalar product, which is integral over a real number. Maybe it's finite, definite, infinite interval, finite interval. And this is a certain measure on the real number. So it's usually Stieltjes integral, or a function increasing with jump, or continuous, discrete. So we will not consider at all this kind of, I will not detail what is measures, etc., the integral. Because combinatorially, in the combinatorial interpretation of orthogonal polynomial, we don't know any combinatorial explanation of the measure. What we will do is a combinatorial explanation of f, this linear form. So there is the classical book of Szego in 1988. It was a very classical book, and it was reprinted many, many times. So this was the standard reference for orthogonal polynomial from the classical point of view. And then there was another book, Chiara, in later, which was also reprinted. And maybe I start more in the spirit of this book for the combinatorial interpretation of orthogonal polynomial than the book of Szego. But the origin of orthogonal polynomial is not Chebyshev polynomial. It's much earlier. The origin is continued fraction. And like this. You see, here is the continued fraction. The expansion, this is a power series, which count permutation. 1, 2, the n factorial. This is generating function, ordinary generating function for permutation. The coefficients are n factorial. And you can expand this, what is called a continued fraction. See, so there is some coefficient here, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4 in the x. So this is in Latin. So it was old papers. And you guess who have written? Euler, of course, Euler. He has started 2 big papers on the study of continued fraction. And so the continued fraction you have seen for expansion of n factorial is called a Stieltjes continued fraction. So Stieltjes have studied a lot about continued fraction, and even he defines Stieltjes integral for the orthogonality of orthogonal polynomial. So this is Stieltjes, you see, so the coefficient lambda 2, lambda k was exactly in Euler, it was, this coefficient lambda k was 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, but just there is a plus instead of a sinus, so you get a minus, plus, minus, but the coefficient, you see, in Euler continued fraction is 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. And then you have the Jacobi, also, Jacobi continued fraction. It's a different one, but there is an equivalence between Stieltjes and Jacobi continued fraction. So all along the class, I will talk about when we will do the combinatorial theory of orthogonal continued fraction, we will work with Stieltjes and Jacobi continued fraction. In fact, there is an equivalence between the theory of orthogonal polynomial and the theory of continued fraction. And the equivalence, one of the possible equivalents is if you cut the continued fraction, you stop it. So it's a rational fraction. It's called the convergent of the continued fraction. So it's a rational fraction with a numerator and denominator. And then this numerator and denominator are going to be exactly orthogonal polynomial. In fact, not orthogonal. The star means reciprocal of orthogonal polynomial. Reciprocal means that if you have a polynomial of degree k, you replace x by 1 over x, you remultiply by x power k to get a polynomial. So this is one possible, and it's equivalent. Any orthogonal polynomial, any sequence of orthogonal polynomial can be the denominator, reciprocal of the denominator of the Jacobi continued fraction. So then slowly, after Szego book, the origin of continued fraction was forgotten to continue the theory of orthogonal polynomial. It was eliminated in the But we will, with the combinatorial theory, we will bring back the continuum fraction at an equal level of the orthogonal polynomial. So there is, after, there have been many books. For example, Andrew, Zasky, and Roy, a book on special function, which are very, sometimes people in physics call it useful function. Instead of special, it's useful in physics. And there is 2 chapters in this book about orthogonal polynomial, and there is 1 paragraph, 1 small section on some orthogonal polynomial and combinatorics. There is a few pages on the combinatorics of orthogonal polynomial about Chebyshev, Hermite, and Laguerre polynomial. But mainly, it's very few pages on the combinatorics. And then there is also the book of Ismail about called Classical Orthogonal Polynomial. Then another book of Khrushchev, not the famous Khrushchev. And this book is a historical book because it goes back the spirit of orthogonal polynomial from the point of view of continuum fraction, Euler, and so this is a beautiful book. Maybe it's not so well known that. So all these books are in the Encyclopedia of Mathematics published by Cambridge University Press. And in this series, there is no book on bijective approach to orthogonal polynomial. And Andrews and Ismail, 15 years ago in a meeting, they asked me, you should do a book, because I have done a book in 83. It's a lecture note in French, Une théorie combinatoire des polynômes orthogonaux, 200 pages of this. This was starting a book on a survey of, at that time, of combinatorial approach to orthogonal polynomial. And Andrews and Ismail told me that so many things happened since, so you should update and write a book in the encyclopedia for the combinatorial theory of orthogonal polynomial. But you know I am bad to write books, bad also to write papers. And also I think it was not too early to write a book, because many things happen for the combinatorics of orthogonal polynomial, especially the relationship with the PASEP model in physics. So there was much more happening. And at the top level of the orthogonal polynomial, there is the Askey-Wilson polynomial. So I was waiting that combinatorics reach the top level before. So now it's time to write this book. In fact, I am going to write a video book. I don't know if you can say writing a video book. It's talking about video book. So video book is this course. So video book, it means, again, there is some video which are recorded. There is some slides you can get on internet. And there is a website to try to navigate between the different slides, the same different video, the same way you navigate in a book. So I am working on the part 1, 2, and 3 also to make a lot of, if you click on I want this, then you can go directly in the video up to 1 second. That's the exact way you want to do. In fact, there is also in the Encyclopedia of Mathematics, there is a book also on continuum fraction. But there is no combinatorics. It's an extension of the Jacobi, Childress, there's the C fraction, T fraction, P fraction, etc., etc. There is many extensions. So this is a book, classical book also in 1980. And of course, there is this book also in Springer Verlag. I will not pronounce the name of the author, but it's a big book also on the point of view of a hypergeometric orthogonal polynomial, because orthogonal polynomial can be expressed as a hypergeometric function. I will not define now what is a hypergeometric function. And then in the late 70s, early 80s, some combinatorial interpretation of the classical orthogonal polynomial appear. I mean, you have a polynomial, there is some coefficient, they are enumerating something, a combinatorial object. So what has been done is for the Hermite, for the Laguerre, and Jacobi polynomial, there is some interpretation, some finite combinatorial object, such that the sum of the weight of all the objects is exactly the polynomials themselves. So this was one approach by the Quebecois school, by the Strasbourg school, etc. And there was also another big approach, a combinatorial interpretation of what is called the linearization coefficient. So this was approached by Askey, many other people. And what is linearization of the coefficient? A sequence of polynomial orthogonal polynomials, they form a basis of the vector space of polynomials. So if you try to take the product, it's going to be expressed as a sum. So it's so you need to know how to compute this coefficient. And classical people, I mean classical analysis, this coefficient appears many times to be positive. And a good way to show that it is positive is to say, okay, is it counting the number of ways to do this, this, and this? In fact, it's more complicated because there is some parameter. So we can do positivity with parameter alpha, beta in the polynomial. And it's possible to prove, at that time, there was some papers, prove the positivity from the combinatorics, from the combinatorial interpretation of this linearization coefficient. So I will give you an example. In this chapter 0, the main example will be about Hermite polynomial. This is the most simple polynomial in the hierarchy of orthogonal polynomial. So I will give you a combinatorial interpretation of the Hermite polynomial. So here is Hermite, and Hermite polynomial are defined as orthogonal polynomial for this integral with this weight measure, and this formula define completely the Hermite polynomial. So this is so-called, because sometimes there is different, I will use, if you follow the class before part 1, part 2, part 3, I have used Hermite polynomial, which are not exactly the same. It's up to change a variable. So this is what is called the physics Hermite polynomial. The other polynomial I used was the probabilist, or maybe combinatorist Hermite polynomial. Yes, just, it's a very slight variation usually. Each class of polynomial, I will maybe sometimes change a variable or a normalization to use it for combinatorial expression. So we are going to find a combinatorial interpretation of this polynomial with Hermite configuration. It's going to be defined. So you take a permutation like this, written in a standard notation, and I take a permutation which is an involution. Involution means the square of the permutation is the identity. You see for example, 1 go to 10 and 10 go to 1. Or in blue, there's some fixed point, 4 go to 4. So this is an involution. And if you look at involution with a cycle, there is cycle of length 1, cycle of length 2. So I call this a Hermite configuration, because there will be maybe there will be Laguerre configuration, Jacobi configuration, Mechner configuration. So this is one of the most simple combinatorial interpretation of orthogonal polynomial, Hermite configuration. So they are counted by a number of involution with some fixed point, and you put a weight on this configuration. The weight is, you put a weight x for each fixed point, and a weight -1 for each cycle of length 2. And then the Hermite polynomial is going to be the sum of the weight of all this configuration on a finite number of the element, which is n. What is the weight of the configuration is a product of all the weight. For example, here the weight will be x power 5 and -1 power 3. So it takes the sum over all involution, over all Hermite configuration, of -1 power, this is d, the number of d for dimers, number of cycle of length 2, and x power the number of fixed point in blue, which is weighted x. And so number of fixed point is n minus twice the number of cycle of length 2, or dimers, d for dimers. So this is a typical example of a combinatorial interpretation of an orthogonal polynomial. This is the most simple orthogonal polynomial. And so from this interpretation, as soon as you approve that this is the interpretation of the Hermite polynomial, then it's elementary combinatorics to show that the coefficient, the number of involution with a certain number of k fixed point is going to be exactly this. And in fact, so I use the physics Hermite polynomial. So you will learn, this is chapter 3 of the first part of this 3 years ago, exponential generating function. So I will define this when we will work with orthogonal polynomial and exponential generating function. So the Hermite polynomial, the exponential generating function of Hermite polynomial is exactly this. So this is the physics Hermite polynomial. The combinatorics Hermite polynomial are this one. There's a slight difference, you see, between, but it's better to write this like this. And so I will recall you during the class. There will be a chapter in the class, I think chapter 4 or 5, maybe 5, about the relationship orthogonal polynomial and exponential generating function, exponential structure. So many orthogonal polynomials are related to exponential generating functions. So I will recall you what is the technique, now it's standard technique, the spaces to work with exponential structure. I will recall you, but I will just give you a flavor, an idea of this combinatorics of exponential generating function. You see, you have to take the exponential of this. So x is this, xt, minus t2 over 2 is this. Taking the exponential means you take many of this, and then you put, and then you get back the Hermite configuration. So this is standard techniques. And standard techniques we will use for exponential generating function give you, for example, a combinatorial proof of this identity. This is a classical identity on the orthogonal polynomial, which is called the Meller identity. It's an identity where you have a pair of two Hermites. The generating function is going to be this. So we'll prove this in the class. It's once you know the standard technique for using exponential generating function, this is just an exercise for standard for students. But in the time of the beginning of the 80s, this was a paper by Fuata, and this was a research paper. There was a full seminar on this. I listened to this seminar. This was a time when the use of interpreting combinatorial polynomial with some combinatorial object, interpreting orthogonal polynomial with some combinatorics, then you can try to reprove classical identity, like this one, Meller identity, etc., etc. So many identities on orthogonal polynomial has been given a combinatorial proof, have been reproved using the combinatorial interpretation. But maybe you can say, okay, all this, you are counting things, but orthogonal polynomial, there is Laguerre polynomial, for example, there is, this is the orthogonality of Laguerre polynomial, there is a parameter inside. So how are you going to find something, counting something where there is a parameter alpha? So very easy. Just put a weight on the combinatorial object. So this is another example. Laguerre is a little above, a little above the Hermite. So this is the orthogonality of Laguerre polynomial. This is the gamma function, defined by Euler again. So this defines the orthogonality of Laguerre polynomial. And what we are going to do is to have an interpretation with combinatorial object, but I am going to put the weight on the combinatorial object. It will be valued or weighted combinatorial object. So all along the class, there will be a weight on the combinatorial object. There was a very simple weight on the Hermite configuration. It was -1 for the cycle and x. But now I am going to put a weight alpha. So Laguerre configuration is exactly this. So suppose you have n elements. You want to interpret Laguerre polynomial index n, and you split a partition of all these elements, you see. So there is some cycle. Here it's a part of a permutation. This is cycle, and this is chain. So you split your vertices into chain and cycle. And on each chain, you put a weight -x. So here, total, there is 4 times -x. And on each cycle, you put a weight alpha plus 1.
Partial permutation?
Yes, partial permutation. It's a mixture of a cycle and chain. And this interpretation, we will prove it in the class. In chapter 5, it's come directly from there is a well-known generating function for Laguerre polynomial, which is this. So this is going to be, this generating function, 1 over -t power something, is going to be this, interpreted by this. You will understand in chapter 5. And this exponential of this part is going to be a chain. This is a chain, and the exponential is many chain. And you will understand it later, how this is translated into this. So I claim that the Laguerre polynomial can be interpreted as a sum of the weight of all Laguerre configuration. The weight is going to be the product of the alpha plus 1 appearing in the picture and the product of all the -x. And then this is combinatorics to show that there is an explicit formula for the Laguerre polynomial. I don't go in detail, but just to give you a flavor of And then we can go further in the complexity of orthogonal polynomial with Mechner, etc., with 2 parameters, 3 parameters, not until the top level, but so this will be chapter 5. Chapter 5, combinatorial interpretation of classical orthogonal polynomial and in relationship with exponential structure. So in chapter 5, we can, with this relation, with exponential derivative function, we will interpret this 6th class of polynomial. This is the Hermite, you see. This is the Laguerre, this is the Charlier polynomial, Jacobi, Mechner, Mechner-Polaczek. So what is called the classical orthogonal polynomial is Jacobi, Laguerre, Hermite. So what means this green arrow? This means that it's part of the ASCII scheme classification of orthogonal polynomial. And here is the full ASCII scheme. You see, it's so here are in purple our 6 polynomial we will take in this class. And then there is much more. So this means hypergeometric function. I don't define now the detail, but each of these polynomials can be expressed at what is called hypergeometric function. And you see the complexity, more and more complex, you go up in this level until reaching the top level of this classification. So I will explain what means the green arrow going down from this to Hermite polynomial. But let's say, for example, the Jacobi polynomial. We have seen Chebyshev polynomial. Chebyshev are particular case of Jacobi. Jacobi is with 2 parameters. So we'll give interpretation of Jacobi polynomial. And first kind, second kind, you see, special case. Also Legendre and Legendre is also special case. And in fact, this Gegenbauer, you see, all this is special case of Gegenbauer with 1 parameter lambda. And the more general with 2 parameters. And in this tableau here, there is some green arrow. What it means? It means that you go, for example, for going from Jacobi to Laguerre, you go down, means it's like a limit of when 1 parameter go to infinity of your Jacobi with a change of variable, give you the Laguerre. And this can be proved. This has been proved in the early 80s when people were interpreting orthogonal polynomial. This has been proved by combinatorics. You have a combinatorial model for Laguerre, a combinatorial model for Jacobi with 2 parameters, and taking the limit means, oh, you have to change a little the variable, the parameter, means one of the parameters is 0, you forget. So part of the combinatorial interpretation, you forget one part, and then you get the... So we can really understand what is the limit of all this green arrow in the ASCII tableau. So it's time now to define explicitly what we are going to mean in this class by formal orthogonal polynomial, because we will forget the measure, we'll forget the real number, we'll forget that the polynomial are on a real or complex number, we'll forget the measure. So what is important for the orthogonality is what is called the moment. So the moment is defined like this for in analysis. So this gives you f of xn. You see, if you put xn in this under the integral, so this is well defined in analysis. The moment of orthogonal polynomial. There is a moment problem that if you know the moment, then how to find a measure which corresponds to this moment. So this is a famous important problem in analysis. But here we will forget analysis, and I will work formally. I will work not with polynomial in a real number, but polynomial on a ring. It can be a complex number, real number, anything, or usually we will work with a ring. When there is parameter like Laguerre, I will work with a ring. K will be a ring of polynomial, alpha, beta. So I will consider the parameter as polynomial with coefficient, usually integer or q. And so if you want really to, for example, the positivity problem, something coming from analysis, all the combinatorial part is working formally with alpha, beta being parameter. And at the end, then you will replace by alpha by 1/2 or a complex number, everything. But so we can really do some overlap some part of analysis like positivity of some coefficient. And definition. So the main definition of all the curves is that, so this was in fact the definition used in the book of Chiara. Of course, he says f was a linear form on the polynomial on real number, but here it's be polynomial on any ring. If I need to have a division, then I will say, okay, but it will be a field, but usually I take any ring. And so orthogonal polynomial definition, if a non-naive, there exists a linear form, f. So it's a linear form on the space of polynomial in one variable x with coefficient in the ring K. So there exists a linear form such that the degree of Pn is n. There is three conditions. For n, the degree of the polynomial is n. Second condition, f of pkpl equals 0 if k is different of L. And third condition, f of pk to the square, if k equals L, then it must be non-zero. And so it is. This definition, you don't need any more analysis. The coefficient it's just formal, a linear form on the space of polynomial in a ring of polynomial in one variable x, and the ring K maybe can be, if I need parameter alpha beta like Laguerre, it will be a ring of polynomial in the formal parameter alpha. The question is what?
It need not span all K.
So the ring K is a... Yes, any polynomial. The first condition is that the degree, so the polynomial form a basis of the space of polynomial in one variable. First condition, the degree of each polynomial Pn is n. So it's a sequence of polynomial, each one is of degree n. Usually we will, in the class, we will start with monic polynomial. Monic means that the polynomial starts with x power n. The coefficient of the biggest power is 1. Always we will have monic polynomial. So when I will take some polynomials, the classical literature, first I have to rewrite it as monic, maybe change the variable, make some renormalization, and then we can do combinatorics. And so this linear functional is defined by the moment. If you formulate in a formal way, if you just say f of xn equal mu n, so the mu n define linear functional can be completely defined by this sequence of moment. So any sequence mu n maybe define, give you a sequence of orthogonal polynomial. It's not true that if you take any f, then there exists orthogonal polynomial satisfying condition 1, 2, 3. There is some necessary condition to get orthogonal polynomial. We will prove it in a commutative way. What is the condition that you get orthogonal polynomial? For example, if mu0, mu1, if the three first values of mu n are 1, 1, 1, then you will not get any orthogonal polynomial. So for example, the moments of Chebyshev first kind and second kind, so up to a change of variable, just a little, the moment of the Chebyshev first kind are exactly, so it's 0 for mu in odd index, and for even index is 2n chosen, the binomial coefficient 2n chosen. And the moment of the second Chebyshev polynomial is a well-known Catalan number for even. So I have changed a little the Chebyshev. If you really take back to the regular Chebyshev second kind, then the moment will be given by an integral. If I go back to analysis, then it will be, because of the change of variable, it will be Catalan number divided by 4 power 1. So we have seen Hermite polynomial. And the moment of Hermite are, again, it's 0 if it's an odd number, and mu to n equal 1 multiplied by 3, multiplied by 5, multiplied, etc. And this, what is this? This is a number of involution with no fixed point. So it's a very classical Laguerre with alpha equal 1, or alpha equals 0. With the Laguerre, the first Laguerre, the Laguerre we have seen with alpha equals 0. Moment is going to be n factorial. So it's permutation. And in fact, there is some classical sequence in combinatorics, which are moments of classical orthogonal polynomial. For example, the number of partition, which is called the Bell number of partition of set, not the integer partition of Ramanujan, but the partition of a set. Then the moment of Charlie polynomial, the moment are exactly the number of partition set. And for example, we have seen in part 1 of the class a tangent secant number of Euler. Tangent number is going to be moment of some specific class of what is called Mexner-Polacek polynomial. Moment of the specific class of Mexner polynomial going to be the number of order partition. So many. Each time you have a classical sequence in combinator X, you can look, is there any interesting orthogonal polynomial related to this classical sequence? So now the combinatorial theory of orthogonal polynomial. So there is 2 points of view. First, else you study one family of orthogonal polynomial, Hermite, Laguerre, Mexner, Jacobi, and try to do everything to interpret combinatorially to prove identity combinatorially. Or else, the second point of view, which is a kind of dual point of view, I will explain, it's a combinatorial theory for all orthogonal polynomial. For the general, so this is a general formal theory, something which is true for any orthogonal polynomial. So there is some general theorem, like a Favart theorem. We are going to reprove all this in a combinatorial way. So there is a main important theorem that if you have a sequence of monic orthogonal polynomial, then there exists 2 sequences of scalar, bk, lambda k. Bk start at 0, lambda k start at 1. So this is bk, lambda k are coefficient in the ring k, such that, so this is very important, very classical theorem. It's easy to prove. We will prove it in the class. We don't need bijection. It's so easy by calculus that I will forget my umbrella of bijective man, and we will go do these 2 lines of calculus. Then there exists bk lambda k such that this polynomial satisfies this famous 3-term linear recurrence relation. So for any sequence of orthogonal polynomial, on real number or formally, any sequence in the sense of formal way, you can find 2 sequences bk lambda k. There exists bk lambda k, and lambda k will be non-zero. So you can ask, is it the reciprocal condition, is it true? And this is the famous Favart theorem, which says that if you have a 3-term linear recurrence relation, then this implies that the polynomials are orthogonal for a certain sequence of, for a linear form, for a certain sequence of moments. And this, in this class, we are going to prove this in a combinatorial way. We don't need integral or to suppose. You know, sometimes I have been in meeting a long time ago on orthogonal polynomial, and some physicists reprove the classical theorem because they're working on orthogonal polynomial on complex number. And because all the proof, because Favart theorem, you need the lambda to be positive. See, so usually you need positivity, and as soon as you have complex numbers, then maybe it's not true, so they reprove, but everything can be proved. You don't need to distinguish real or complex number. Everything can be proved formally. Everything, most of the main, not everything, but part of the theory can be proved. So the main question, you give me 2 sequences bk lambda k, any sequence. So this defined by 3-term recurrence relation. This defines the sequence of polynomial. And proving Favart theory, you have to find the mu n. You give me these 2 sequences, so find the mu n. And the mu n have an interpretation from the bk lambda k as the sum of the weight of what is called Motzkin path. So here is a Motzkin path. It's a sequence of points on this lattice. So you go from one point to a next point, next vertices. We are on the square lattice. And you go from one point to another point in 3 different ways. You have a level here, or else you go to the northeast, or you go to the southeast. You start at the 0 level. You always stay above the 0 level. And at the end, you go back to the 0 level. This is called a Motzkin path because it was in a paper by Motzkin, and they are enumerated, number of such paths of length n are enumerated by Motzkin number. And if you don't have any level, then this is a very classical Dick path, which are counted by Catalan number. The moment of the Chebyshev second kind. Now I am going to put a weight on this path, which depends of the sequence bk lambda k. So I consider bk lambda k as formal variable. Even after you will put real number on the real recurrence relation, but I consider this just as a formal variable, infinite number of formal variable in blue, infinite number in lambda k in red. And I am going to put a weight on each elementary step of the path. Elementary step is a sequence of 2 consecutive vertices. So when you go up, you put a weight 1. When you are at a level, horizontal step at level k, you put a weight bk. And when you go down, you put a weight lambda k. If k is the level of the height of the starting point. Now the weight of the path, so you see it's a product of all the bk lambda k. So here I have b1, I have lambda 2, lambda 1, b0, b1, b2. So the weight of this Motzkin path is this. The product of all the weight of all the elementary steps, and the weight depends of the height, the level of the step. And then I claim that if you take the sequence of polynomial with a 3-time recurrence relation with bk lambda k, I claim that they are orthogonal in a formal way, in the formal definition, to the linear form defined by this moment. The moments are going to be the sum of the weight of all the Motzkin paths of length n. And so you get a proof, formal proof, covenantal proof of Favar's theorem, a proof which is true for any orthogonal polynomial, because I consider bk lambda k as formal variable. So this will be the main theorem of chapter 1. Chapter 1 will be, so we'll recall classical Chebyshev, Hermite, Laguerre in classical way with no parameter. It will be matching polynomial of graph. So there will be a few graph theory here. Then I will prove the Favart theorem in chapter 1. The moment will be the sum of weighted paths. And in this chapter, there will be 3 sessions, 3 lectures. There will be 3 bijective proofs. The first bijective proof, the 3-time recurrence relation, imply orthogonality. There will be a second bijective proof that if you take the matrix of all this orthogonal polynomial, there is inverse polynomial. When you inverse, what means inverse polynomial? Say means you have a sequence of polynomial, and then if you inverse, express any monomial in terms of this basis, then you get some other polynomial. And I claim that this inverse polynomial are going to be interpreted by some of the weight of Motzkin paths ending in level L. You see so there is an interpretation. So these polynomials are interpreted by the 3-time recurrence relation, but then you have an interpretation of the inverse matrix. And this proposition will be proved by using a bijection. And now also, there is another bijection. We will prove in this chapter the positivity of some linearization coefficient. And what is interesting is this is totally different theorem from the classical point of view analysis, but from the bijective point of view, the bijection is almost the same. This is what I called last year the essence of the bijection. I have 3 different bijections, but the same essence, very close together, and I will give you a flavor of this essence of this bijection. So in fact, see, I go back to the linearization coefficient. The elementary lemma give you that linearization coefficient is this. So the polynomials are interpreted orthogonal polynomial, this 3-time relation. The f is a linear form. So we will give a proof of the positivity. We will give an interpretation of this, of the f of product of 3 orthogonal polynomials. We will give an interpretation in terms of path, and then we will see why it is positive in certain cases. There is an ASCII theorem which says it's always positive if the lambda k and bk are increasing sequence and lambda k are positive. So another important concept is the notion of history. So I go back to the Hermite, the most simple orthogonal polynomial, the Hermite polynomial. So we have seen that for bk lambda k, so bk equals 0 for the Hermite, lambda k equal k. So this is the fact that if you take this, bk equals 0, lambda k equal k, then I claim that the three-term recurrence relation defines you the Hermite polynomial. The moment of the Hermite are exactly the number of involution with no fixed point, which can be also put as a core diagram or perfect matching. This is also 1 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 5. This is an involution with no fixed point written in a slightly different way. So now what means? Now I know that the moment are the sum of the weight of all the Motzkin paths with bk equals 0, lambda k equal k. So bk equals 0 means, in fact, you have a Dicke path, like this. So I take a Dicke path. What is the weight of the Dicke path? You see, it's lambda k equal k, so the weight is I have 3, 3, 2, 2, 2. So the weight of this Dicke path is the product of all this integer, which is 9 multiplied by 8, 72. So there is 70, the weight is 72. So for each Dicke path, you have a certain weight. Here it's 72. And I must put this in bijection with core diagram. The total number of core diagram is the sum over all Dicke paths, counted by Catalan number, of the weight of the Dicke path, which is an integer, the product of the height of all this southeast step. So I must put a bijection with some weighted. So the bijection is going to be with, this is notion of history. This was introduced by Françon in computer science. As a history means it's a data structure like a binary search tree. You add an element, you delete, or you ask a question, is somebody in your data structure? And so you make a sequence of primitive operation. If you add an element in the data structure, it's going to increase the size of the data structure, etc. So this sequence of operation, you are going to remember everything you have done. To remember means, first you remember the sequence of primitive operation, which correspond to my Dicke path. I remember the Dicke path. I go up, down, up, down, up, down, etc. Now each elementary step of the Dicke path going to correspond to doing something, making an operation. And making an operation, I have a different number of choice. In a binary, if you ask a question in a binary search tree, if there is k element, there is k possibility to ask a question which is positive. Okay, somebody is in the data. So the history is first, you remember the Dicke path. I translate now in terms of combinatorial, in combinatorics, the idea of a history of Françon. We have done this with Françon a long time ago, before the 80s. So I have a Dicke path. I have this number, which is a weight coming from lambda k equal k for each going step. I have 72. The product is 72, so I must have 72 history. History means you do a sequence of primitive operation, and then here means there is 3 choice. You have 3 choice to do this, and history means I will remember which choice I have done. So here the choice, I have labeled them from 0. So here I choose choice number 2. Here I choose choice number 1, choice number 0. So each time you have the red number. Each time you choose a blue number, which is between 0 and k minus 1. And so this is an history, you see. You remember the past, you remember the sequence of operation, and you remember which choice you have done. And then the problem is to show that this number of history is exactly the same as the number of core diagram. And there is a bijection between Hermite, we call this Hermite history, and there is a bijection with core diagram. And the bijection is, so this is one of the most simple examples of bijection with history, the concept of history. So you see, we have the concept of Motzkin path or Dicke path. Then there is a weight, bk lambda k. And then there is a history, which is a choice, which corresponds to do really the bijection. So for example, I go up, mean, okay, I open a chord. 1, 2, 3, I go up, up, up. Now I go down. I have to do something in 3 different ways. Okay, I am going to close now. And I do this, I take choice number 2. So you have to label the choice. This is choice number 0, number 1, number 2. So there is a convention. I am going to label the choice from left to right. You can label from right to left if you want. This will be a different bijection. But the spirit, the essence of the bijection is that there is a certain number of choice, and you just the history is does not tell you how are you going to label exactly the different choice. Okay, so I close this. Now I have choice 0, 1, 2, and then I close it. Oh, sorry, the choice number 2 was the extreme. The convention was this is choice number 0, 0, 1, 2. So I take choice number 2, and okay. Now I go up, okay, up, down, choice number 3, up, 0, 1, 2, no, choice number 1, sorry. And you continue like this, you see, talk, talk, so you restore, and then you can really feel that this is a bijection. This is a proof that if you take bk lambda k, bk equals 0, lambda k equals k, this gives you, by Favart theorem, a sequence of orthogonal polynomial. And I prove that the moments are exactly the number of involution with no fixed point. And then for the Laguerre polynomial, this is at the first, we were at the 0 level of the ASCII scheme, ASCII classification. Now a little above, the level above is Laguerre, and now there is a very important main bijection, which we already, people who follow the class, the first class and the third class last year, the Laguerre history, Laguerre bijection, they have already. So we'll do more, we'll study this in more detail, the Laguerre bijection, because it implies that many, not only for the Laguerre polynomial, but many other polynomials can be deduced from this bijection. So Laguerre polynomial is bk equal 2k plus 2, and lambda k equal kk plus 1. And this gives you the moment equal n plus 1 factorial. So we will do in the class, this will be chapter 2, the Laguerre. So Laguerre history, it's going to be weighted, more complicated. There will be 2 colors. There will be a Motkin path with some color on the level. And every step will be weighted, going up, going down, going blue, going red. And there will be a bijection, which shows that the number of the moments of the Laguerre polynomial for alpha equal 1 is going to be n plus 1 factorial. Now, Laguerre polynomial, Hermite polynomial are in fact the so-called Scheffer polynomial. They are related to exponential generating function because Scheffer polynomial, this is a formal definition. It's any sequence of polynomial, not necessarily orthogonal, can be Scheffer if and only if you can write them like this. There is 2 generating functions, f and g, such that the exponential generating function of the polynomial can express the product of g multiplied by this. If g is 1, then this is called binomial type polynomial. Sometimes this is called binomial type Appel polynomial, and this is called sometimes generalized Appel polynomial. But usually also the vocabulary will use Scheffer polynomial, and this is related to, there's a whole theory of Rota, the umbrel calculus, and he can define Scheffer and binomial type polynomial by the so-called delta operator, which is an extension of the differential operator. And then there is a famous important theorem saying that sequence of orthogonal polynomial are Scheffer polynomial. This is called the Mexner. Sometimes it's due to Mexner. So if you have at the same time orthogonal polynomial and Scheffer polynomial, then it can be only of the 5 possible type. It can be Hermite, it can be Laguerre, Charlier, Mexner, Mexner-Polotzek. There are only 5 families. Any Scheffer polynomial can be up to a renormalization or change a variable. It's one of these 5 possible types. So we will study in these 5 types. Do you remember we say I will in this class introduce the 6th class of polynomial. So in this 6th class there is a 5 Scheffer plus the Jacobi. Jacobi, I will use exponential generating function, so it's very close to Scheffer. It's not exactly Scheffer, so Jacobi is not Scheffer. But in fact, Jacobi, you will see combinatorics, it's kind of superposition of 2 Laguerre, a blue Laguerre configuration, a red Laguerre with some condition on the compatibility. So you see, it's just above the, and now is using the Laguerre bijection, Laguerre history, so this unique bijection, then you can get all combinatorially the moments of all the Scheffer. So from the Laguerre So this is the 5 class of Sheffer, the 5 class of BK, the 5 class of lambda k, and all the moments with even some parameter. So don't look the detail. I will give the detail. But all this formula, all this moment can be deduced from the single Laguerre bijection. Because it can be else, you make a restriction in the permutation. It's going to be interpreted by permutation with some restriction. And maybe some weight, the parameter, even you see the Mexner, there is two parameters. Some special case of Mexner, I say, was tangent secant number appear as special case of Mexner. So this will be chapter 5 of the class about orthogonality and exponential generating function, especially the 5 Sheffer plus the Jacobi, which is not Sheffer. And I will introduce you to the Rotha-Umbral calculus. It's part of the culture of mathematics. And in the umbral calculus, Sheffer polynomial, you can define them by 2 generating functions, but you can also define them by delta operator, which is... so there is 2 different equivalent definitions. And when you work with delta operators, there is an S and a Q for the Sheffer polynomial. So we'll give also interpretation of this operator. And the interesting fact is that the interpretation of this operator will be in terms of weighted path in history, and the interpretation of the polynomial in terms of the 3-term recurrence relation, in terms of pavage. So there is a kind of duality. So I will talk about the duality all along the class. It's going to appear a certain duality between the polynomial and between the moments of the polynomial. So when you work with polynomial, it was at the beginning of the 80s, where a specific class of polynomial. So for commutatively, we start from the 3-term recurrence relation. And then the dual is the moment, all this weighted path, Motzkin path, Dicke path. So it's a kind of duality between the moment and the orthogonal. So the moment is weighted Motzkin path, and the polynomial themselves, this is a 3-term recurrence relation. It will be what I call paving or pavage. Pavage of the... It's come from the 3-term recurrence relation. It's just a trivial translation of 3-term recurrence relation by saying the orthogonal polynomial is going to be the sum of the weight of what such a thing. A pavage, it's you take a segment, 0n, and a pavage is, here I have n equal, I have a k, so I take a segment 0k minus 1 to interpret the polynomial pk, and then you put some monomers in blue, some dimers in red, and the weight is b index. See here, the weight of this one is B5, or the weight of this one is lambda 2. So pavage is 2 by 2 disjoint monomers and dimers. They are weighted just by the indices in the segment. So this is trivial that we will reprove it, but this is interpretation of polynomial satisfying the 3-term recurrence relation, interpretation that pk is the sum of the weight of all this, but you have to put a -1 for each dimers and a -1 for each monomers. So this is a kind of duality. I have pavage, and on the other side, I have Motzkin path. So if I have weighted Motzkin path, in fact, pavage can be also written in terms of path. So this is called the Favart path. And the duality, in fact, there is a general duality in path, which is the particular case here. There will be the duality between Motzkin path and Favart path. So for people, students who follow the class last year, 2 years ago, on heaps of pieces, the pavage 3-term recurrence relation is a trivial heaps, and the moment, the Motzkin path, is a heaps. It's a pyramid of monomers and dimers. So the duality now becomes, if you know about heaps of pieces, between trivial heaps and heaps like this. The duality also is between inverse polynomial. Here is the inverse polynomial, and the duality is polynomial themselves is pavage on the floor level. The dual, the inverse polynomial is going to be the sum of the weight of such path. So this is also the duality becomes inverse of the matrix of polynomial. It can be the form for specific case. You have the Stirling number of the first kind, it's counting partition by number of blocks. Total the Bell number and the Stirling number. And Stirling number second kind is counting permutation by number of cycle. So each Stirling number small s, capital S. So up to the sign, it's well known that there is an inversion matrix here, and it will be deduced also from this class and from this duality. And also the duality between, if you know about symmetric function between homogeneous symmetric function and elementary symmetric. It's really a particular case also of this duality. So everywhere we'll always meet the same essence, the same spirit of this duality. If I go back to Scheffer polynomial, so Scheffer polynomial was defined like this, but Rota defined this with Mbral calculus, boson, and if you define this as S and Q operator, then this generating function can be written like this. S and Q are the generating function of the operator, and now the duality comes the form of the Lagrange inversion, because I will interpret this S and Q with history, like moments weighted path. This is a polynomial. This is the moment level. And the duality becomes the Lagrange inversion. So there will be a chapter on analytic continued fraction, like this. Let's go back to Stieltjes, Jacobi. And I said that it was equivalent, the two theory, continued fraction and orthogonal polynomial, where there was an equivalence by taking the convergent. But there is more, which was well known before. Now we know that orthogonal polynomial, wait, the equivalent, okay, no, sorry. So the equivalence, which is well-known equivalence, is that the generating function, this Jacobi continued fraction, was exactly the generating function for the moment of the orthogonal polynomial. If you get orthogonal polynomial with analysis, with an integral, etc., you get some moments, then the generating function of the moment can be expanded in continued fraction with coefficient bk lambda k are exactly the same as the coefficient of the three-term recurrence relation. So we have seen that these moments are interpreted by Motzkin path. And so the moment here, it must be also Motzkin path here. So this J fraction, Jacobi fraction, are the sum of the moments. And this is Flageolet fundamental lemma. That was in 80. He starts from this level. He starts here, working with Jacobi continued fraction, and he gives a commutative interpretation of any continued fraction with coefficient bk lambda k. And this interpretation was given in terms of Motzkin path. And there is a very easy proof by decomposition. You just need to know the elementary combinatorics of ordinary generating function. So he gets this fundamental lemma that any continued fraction can be viewed as a sum of weighted Motzkin path. And at the same time, with Jean-François, we're working with history, with Laguerre bijection, with weighted Motzkin path, etc. And so this step was the starting point also to rewrite completely the theory of orthogonal polynomial from a commutative point of view. So this was the meaning of the monograph lecture note I gave to rewrite everything in terms of combinatorics. So you remember this Jacobi continued fraction. If I go back to Euler and n factorial, the moment of the Laguerre, can I expand this in Jacobi continued fraction? And in fact, Euler, see, I have shown the continued fraction of n factorial, but here also he makes this continued fraction. For the Hermite polynomial, you remember, bk equals 0, lambda k equals k. And so here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have the lambda k equal k. And here you have the involution with no fixed point. So the bijection I showed before give you a proof of the continued fraction. Using the Flageolet lemma or the lemma, you get a proof of this by using the bijection. So Euler would be shocked, maybe, to see this, because this happened only in the 20, 30 years ago. To have an interpretation in 1980 of this continued fraction. So this was the starting point of to forget continued fraction, or maybe to keep them, but the starting point to have a whole combinatorial theory of orthogonal polynomial. And so there will be a chapter 3 on continued fraction with Jacobi, Stieltjes, Flageolet lemma, convergent, orthogonal, and this is interesting, maybe contraction of continued fraction. If you have because any power theory usually can be expanded more or less into a Stieltjes continued fraction or into a Jacobi continued fraction. So how to go from a Jacobi to a Stieltjes is by contraction of path. There is well-known formula, but you can explain them completely combinatorially. And if I go back to Euler gave a continuum fraction for the n factorial. You remember it was 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. So Euler gave a still-just continuum fraction. But we have seen the Laguerre polynomial, the Laguerre history, is interpretation of a Jacobi continuum fraction. So how to go from one to another? So this is the Laguerre polynomial is mu n equal n plus 1 factorial. And maybe I make a shift. There is a slight change by taking this. So this will be a restriction in the Laguerre history. So you can expand this in Jacobi continuum fraction n factorial. And so this coefficient is going to be this, bk equal 2k plus 1, lambda k equal k2. And how to go from Euler continuum fraction to this one. And then there is contraction. And there is a bijection for this. I will give you this in the class also. It's a modification. It's not the Laguerre history. It's subdivided Laguerre history that we will need for Q-analog. We will need this second bijection, which is really important. The contraction in continuum fraction between Euler, between Jacobi, it can be very useful because if you use this explanation of classical contraction of continuum fraction only on the path, then you can easily prove the QD algorithm, the quotient difference algorithm. So this is an algorithm in numerical analysis. It's well known 30 years ago or 40 years ago to expand any power series into continuum fraction. And I will give a combinatorial proof in the class of this, how it works, using the contraction of continuum fraction explained with path. We go from a Dicke path to a Motzkin path. If we go from still-just contraction to a Jacobi contraction, we will see the Dicke path can be compressed, and then you get a Motzkin path bijectively, and this can be used to prove the QD algorithm. And so this will be chapter 4. QD algorithm is part of chapter 4, where you can compute. Chapter 4 is how to compute bk lambda k. You give me a generating function, mu n equal n factorial, or mu n equal number of involution with no fixed point. So how to compute the expansion in continuum fraction, how to compute the three-term recurrence relation bk lambda k. Else you expand in continuum fraction, or else you find a family of orthogonal polynomial satisfying the three-term recurrence relation, the bk lambda k. So how to compute the bk lambda k? The QD algorithm is one way to compute this. So the QD algorithm is the following. Here, in the first column, you take the ratio of two consecutive moments, which is going to be maybe a rational number if you have an integer. And then there is some operation in each of this, the rhombus rule. In each of these squares, then slowly there's an algorithm. Sometimes you do addition, sometimes you do division, quotient. And at the end, on the diagonal will appear the coefficient lambda k. So this is an algorithm to compute the expansion in still-just continuum fraction. Or it's an algorithm to compute the three-term recurrence relation when bk equals 0. So this is called the rhombus rule. And I will prove this using very easy proof using the path and contraction of path. So this is one way to compute the lambda k when bk equals 0. And a second way is to there is formula, well-known formula, expressing the bk lambda k in terms of determinant, in terms of Hankel determinant. So what is a Hankel determinant? If you have a sequence of moments, the mu n, any sequence of numbers, the Hankel determinant, this is a big Hankel matrix. The term ij is mu index I plus j, and Hankel determinant is any minor of this matrix. And then I will use LGV lemma, which some people already know in the first part of the class, that the determinant in general is equivalent to take sum of weight or counting is related to configuration non-crossing path. And here, this lemma works very well in this topic. For example, this Hankel determinant, if the moment, will be interpreted by some configuration of non-crossing paths. And then there will be, usually there is classical formula to express the bk lambda k in terms of determinant. The first determinant is this one, delta n, and then will be interpreted by this, and there is another Hankel determinant will be interpreted by this, and then we will see very easily the classical formula expressing bk lambda k in terms of this determinant will be shown from the geometry of the non-crossing path. So this will be chapter 4. computation of bk lambda k, which you can think of expanding a power series into continued fraction, or finding the three-term recurrence relation for orthogonal polynomial, having the mu n as a moment. And this determinant, in fact, must be non-zero. So this is a necessary and sufficient condition that there exists a sequence of orthogonal polynomial. So you see there is three different ways to compute, and here you see Ramanujan algorithm. So up to my knowledge, it's very rare that Ramanujan is going to give an algorithm or a formula which works for any, in general. It works for any continued fraction. Usually you have specific formula, Roger-Ramanujan identity, etc. You have split formula. But here you have a formula, an algorithm, and we are going to give a proof of this. So this Ramanujan algorithm is in the notebook, chapter 12, entry 7, and there is different combinatorial proof by Andrews, David Jackson, Goulden, etc. But here we will simplify, and we'll see that the same bijection, this same essence of bijection, giving the proof of the duality I showed before, and then see there was the same essence of bijection. There was a three bijection of chapter 1, which I claim there was the same essence. Now the convergent of continued fraction, which are reciprocal of orthogonal with demimeter, and Ramanujan. So now I have 5 different propositions which are in the same essence, same bijective proof. And I give you the essence of this bijective proof. All this fact, all this proposition, in fact, it works with a pair. Here is the orthogonal polynomial, the pavage, and here is a weighted path. So I have a pair of such as this, like this. And the formula is equivalent to cancel in this pair, because here is -1, here is +1. See, this one should be weighted lambda 6, or this one B2, B3, but with a minus in front. Minus B2, minus B3, etc. And this is plus lambda 2 plus. So the idea is all these pairs, many pairs are going to cancel. So we are going to give what is called an involution proof. You have a big summation, and everybody is going to cancel. So we have seen in previous classes many examples of involution proof, killing involution. So the essence of all these 5 bijections here, or 6, or I don't know how many, is exactly, the essence is to try to pair 2 by 2 this. So in the following way, maybe you can try to, one of this is minus B2, and you take it and try to incorporate it in the path, like this. So this is a second pair. But now the B2, which was minus B2, become plus B2. So the two pair of pairs are going to cancel. So the trick is you have to pair 2 by 2 in a certain way. So you have to give precise definition of this involution. And also when you lift pieces, you have to check that the weight which was below B2 is going to be the level of the... And you can do this even for dimers. If you have a dimers minus lambda 3 here, you can try to put it in the path like this. So you lift it, and then you try to insert it, and the dimer become up and down. So this is at the good height. This is the weight is lambda 3. So this is the spirit, the essence of this bijection, which can prove everything. All these 5 Ramanujan algorithm, the inverse, we'll see everywhere it will be something like this, where on one side you have an orthogonal polynomial, which is a pavage, or trivial if. On the side you have a path. And then I'm going to have a killing involution. Everybody is going to cancel, and what will remain is exactly what you want. So and you will see that sometimes the conditions on the pair are almost the same, and the theorem are totally different. And then what is funny is that if you do this for Ramanujan algorithm, you translate. So there was combinatorial proof by Andrews, etc. Andrews, they have a complicated. It's almost the same as close to the involution proof, but you use inclusion-exclusion, which is complicated. And I always, my joke that inclusion-exclusion principle is for drunk people, and because you are drunk, you want to count. I have to count too much. Each student was 3 students, so I have to count too much people. So I'm going to delete the one I have counted twice or 3 times. And you delete too much, so I have to add again, so you go back and forth like this. And the power of involution is, with the weight, etc., is more clear to understand. And Andrews gave this kind of beautiful proof, but we will do analog with killing involution, and the fact that if you translate everything in terms of path, you see that simpler, the path is a little complicated, you can simplify the algorithm, so you can make a simplified algorithm of Ramanujan just by translating this on the involution on the pair of pavage and path. So some Q-analog, I will finish with some Q-analog of orthogonal polynomial. So Q-analog is, the Q-analog of K is 1 plus Q plus Q2 plus Q3, etc. And the Q-analog, for example, I go back to the Hermite example. So the Q-analog of so there will be the Q-Hermite, the Q-Laguerre, there are many Q-analog, and the Q-Hermite, it will be explained by the Q-analog of the history. So for example, the Q-analog of the history, if you take, it will be Q power, the sum of all the choice. Each time, so this number, you see, you will have Q2, Q1, Q0, Q1. So Q means when you have certain number of choice, then the first choice will be Q power 0, second choice Q power Q, Q2, Q3. So the Q-analog is a certain measure of how much it costs to do if you have to read from left to right, and you have to go, well, this is choice number 1, number 2, number 3. So it's intuitively the meaning of how it costs you to go to choice number I. So this, it's just, it's very easy to have a Q-analog of the history, and then so you can have Q-analog of the Hermite history, and then it's going to be, so you have an interpretation with number of crossing. It depends on the labeling in the history. So Q-analog of history, there is so this Q-analog of this will be Q-analog of Hermite polynomial, but there is two Q-analog of Hermite, which is this one. If you have directly Q-analog of the involution of fixed point, and then the history, what is amazing is that for the second kind of Q-Hermite, this was, if you have one here, this was a Q-analog of first class of Hermite, but if you multiply by this, you get the Q-analog, the second class, the Q-analog of this. And Q-analog of Laguerre is this plus this. So you see really that here, you have to take blue step and the red step in the Motzkin path. You are forced, when you work with Q-analog, to distinguish this and this. Because the Q-analog of 2K plus 2 is not the sum of these two. So you are forced to have two colors on the level. So this Q-analog of Laguerre-Bond. And again, there is an amazing fix that if you take the Q-analog of n factorial, which is a number of inversions, the match, etc., there's a lot of literature, then it's again multiplying, taking the Q-analog of the Laguerre-Bond and multiplying by Q power the number of choice. And so you can make the Q-analog of Euler and etc. And the amazing fact is that the Q-analog of this quantum fraction come in the PASEP model in physics. I explained this, there was a many chapter on the PASEP, the Q-PASEP, etc. And it's Q-analog, the class of parameter you need for the class I gave last year. So chapter 6 will be about Q-analog, Q-Hermite, Q-Laguerre, Q-Charlier, Al-Salam-Kara polynomial, and there is a famous Askey-Wilson polynomial. Now the combinatorics, not for the polynomial itself, but the moments of this polynomial, we are able to do this by going a detour to physics with a PASEP model with 4 parameters, interpreting this combinatorially and going back to the moments. And so this is very beautiful combinatorics. And so this is a scheme of basic hypergeometric orthogonal polynomial. So this is orthogonal polynomial which can be expressed as hypergeometric function, but basic hypergeometric function is a Q-analog. And here you see the Askey-Wilson polynomial are at the top here. Not completed, there is Q cap, but so the two Q-Hermite, the two Q-Laguerre are somewhere here with discrete or etc. And the Al-Salam-Kara polynomial are somewhere here. Maybe if I have time, I will show it because it's related to Rook polynomial. So we are part of this tableau. And then there is the moments are also are interpreted in relation with PASEP. So this will be, I resume the whole class. Chapter 1, parts and moments. Chapter 2, moment and history. Chapter 3, the quantum fraction. Chapter 4, computation of BK lambda k. Chapter 5, orthogonality and exponential structure. Chapter 6, Q-analog and maybe some linearization of coefficient. So I think this will be the class until I will finish. I am going to go back to France the 17th of March. So I think this will be enough material but I claim in the introduction, if you look at the website, that there were in fact 10 chapters. So I just mentioned further chapter. I will not do this year, but so chapter 7 is the linearization coefficient. Chapter 8 is the relation between operator, quadratic algebra, and orthogonal polynomial. Chapter 9 is application interaction. Chapter 10 is extension. So maybe I'll go fast and give you just an idea in 5-10 minutes of this chapter. So chapter 7, linearization coefficient. So it's much more. So Zeng have done the survey paper on all this. So all the Sheffer polynomial, the 5 Sheffer, have interpretation of the linearization coefficient. Even it's integral of a product of any polynomial. You take f, not only of the product of 3 polynomial, but any polynomial. So there is interpretation of this for the 5 class of Sheffer. And then there is also commutative interpretation for the 3 Q analog. And also commutative interpretation for the Askey-Wilson polynomial, the integral of 4 polynomials. So linearization coefficient. The Askey-Wilson integral, which is above the top level. And again, there is a commutative interpretation as product of 4 Q-Hermite. So this is a mixture of calculus and combinatorics. Chapter 8 is about relationship between operator, what we have done last year, the quadratic operator. There is 2 algebra, 2 quadratic algebra. This one, the Weil-Heisenberg algebra. This one, the PASEP algebra coming from physics. And there is a strong relationship with orthogonal polynomial. There is this, it's in quantum mechanics, this annihilation creation operator. There is strong relationship with Rook polynomial. This is work by Joshua Verger. The Al-Salam-Kara polynomial, the Q-analog appear here. There is strong relationship with the PASEP. PASEP is, we have done many things here. It's a model in physics where particles are moving in the finite strip. They get inside or go outside in both sides with probability alpha, beta, gamma, delta. They move inside back and forth with probability 1 and q. So it's 5 parameters. The physicists have computed the stationary probability by using orthogonal polynomials, the Q-Hermite for the 3-parameter model. And there is explanation, commutative explanation using these 2 algebra. This is the algebra coming also from the Robinson-RSK correspondence we have done last year. This is the PASEP algebra. And this algebra is related to Laguerre polynomial, Laguerre history. This algebra is related to Hermite history. There is some relation between restricted, this Laguerre here, this Laguerre here. It's a contraction of paths I have. And now the most beautiful thing is that the 5 parameters model give you a partition function which can be interpreted in terms of some tableau, staircase tableau. So you can reach interpretation of the moment of this top-level Askey-Wilson polynomial. So we are here. The moment have been interpreted. And chapter 9 so is application and interaction. The bus and death process, very well-known process in analysis. You have a population, it increases or decreases up to some probability, which depends on the size of the population. Some orthogonal, the solution orthogonal polynomial appear. So we can revisit this with the commutative point of view. In computer science, there is computation of the integrated cost for data structure. There is a PASEP model in physics. Orthogonal polynomial in Smith normal form. There is very beautiful. And so in computer science, I've talked of Françon and the history, etc. So you have a sequence of primitive operation. Each primitive operation, you know, for example, a binary search tree, inserting a key in the binary search tree costs you something, log n time in mean. And you want to know the average cost for an arbitrary sequence of primitive operation. And this computation is done by using the commutative theory of orthogonal polynomial. So now you see the application. It's the commutative theory of orthogonal polynomial can give you some application to the. It go back now. First, we start from analysis or very apply mathematics. We go to combinatorics, interpret all this, and now combinatorics can give you some application in the analytic world. On for example, priority queue, you add or delete an element, or sorry to go so far. The dictionary we have seen this with 4 different operations, and there is quadratic algebra. So they give some. For each, there is in data structure, there is classical data structure, like priority queue, you add anybody, or you delete only the minimum element. Binary search tree, you add question, you delete, you add. So there is different data structure. And with amazing fact, a stack, you put somebody on the top, you delete, etc. A stack, a priority queue, dictionary, linear list, symbol table, if you know all this. Then the number of history, number of way to do this is going to be exactly the moment of some orthogonal polynomial with some possibility to do this primitive operation, and then they correspond to some orthogonal polynomial. And the computation of the average cost up to some condition can be expressed as some expression of the number of times you go at a certain level in the past. So this is a very beautiful theory. There were many papers, application of all this. And I will finish with the extension. There was B orthogonality have been done, and many extensions of fraction, L fraction, T fraction, C fraction, P fraction, multi-continue fraction. Padé approximant. Padé was a student of Hermite. And he extends Padé when you want to approximate a derivative function by a rational fraction, and you give the degree of the numerator, the degree of the denominator. So it's if you take Stiglitz continue fraction or Jacobi, if you take the convergent, then you have two numerator, denominator, but the degree difference is 1. So extension is, okay, I take any pair, PQ. So this is Padé approximant. You want to approximate your as best as possible. Approximation means you want to find n and d such that the term coincide until a certain term. And this is Padé approximant, the extension of Jacobi, convergent of Jacobi and Stiglitz fraction. And beautifully has written his thesis, Roblin. It's a book in the publication of Lassim in Montreal. So there is a famous Pavé table. This is the convergent of the Stiglitz and Jacobi continue fraction. So the Padé table is all pair like this, and so there is some classical theorem. There is a book on Padé approximant, and Roblin explained all this combinatorially with determinant and etc. And other extension is L fraction. So L fraction, L for Lukasiewicz. Instead of taking Dicke path, Motzkin path, you take L path. You go down at any level, and instead of getting orthogonal polynomial, you get any sequence of polynomial. So any sequence of polynomial, you can do the same theorem, have an analog of the moment, and the inversion theorem of chapter 1, for example, you take the coefficient of the orthogonal polynomial, take the inverse matrix. This theorem, this proof, work even for any polynomial. Any sequence of polynomial, not necessarily orthogonal. So many proofs, you can extend them to this Lukasiewicz path. In French, there is a kind of d-orthogonality, which correspond to these paths, which are extended Dicke paths. So if d equal 1, then you have a classical orthogonality. And then there is a C, P, L, T fraction. I will finish with this. So the Jacobi and S Stiglitz continue fraction is, in fact, you have a path, Motzkin path and Dicke path. In fact, it's you start from this point, and then you move on this line. You go up and down. If you have at level I, you can go to I plus 1. You can stay at I, or go back to I minus 1. So Dicke path and Motzkin path are paths on this line. And if you bound the path, then you get the convergent of the continued fraction. So you can extend this to the T fraction. You are going to move now on this tree. This is T fraction. This is in the book of Throne and etc. Maybe they call this T because of Throne, of the author of the book. So you can, and then you can make a beautiful combinatorics. Some natural combinatorial generative function can be expanded in T fraction. There is an analog of the Laguerre bijection for the T fraction with permutation between this. And T fraction has a particular case of tree-like continued fraction. And all this also is explained in the book of these two authors in the Encyclopedia of Mathematics, Cambridge United Press. But there is no combinatorics in this book. It's just an extension of all this. So some part of the book can be done combinatorially. So we can go back to the continued fraction, which have been forgotten for the orthogonal polynomial theory, but combinatorially, there is a lot of beautiful combinatorics. So this will, I will just remind you the address. So this is a website in Montreal. This is a website in India, and if I will put a slide on this website for the moment, slide everything. So if you want to see, go to this website. This one, I don't know if I can. Okay, thank you very much.